Hello, I'm Johnny Rowland, your host of the Shooting Show, and welcome to this week's program. We're so glad to have you. We have some things I think you're going to find interesting, hopefully some things you'll find both entertaining and educational. Have a great show for you. Let's start today's program. You know, we had a tremendous response over our piece done out at Gunsite in Paulden, Arizona, the great Gunsite Academy. And they loaned us one of their modified 45s, and this started out as a regular 1991 A1 Colt, and of course now it is really a Cadillac type gun. So let's do some interesting things we wouldn't normally do with a 45 government model. We have some plates out here to 100 yards. Let's see what happens. And by the way, yeah, I have to admit, yes, we are using Corbine ammunition, so we definitely want the best performance possible. And yeah, this is Corbine because we want it to work. Let's start off with the large plate. Now then, like I said, things you wouldn't normally do with a 45. Let's go for the smaller one. Okay. Now then, just for fun, since we're here. Now then, friends, we have one more plate, and it's way over on that hill. I think you can see from the picture there. It's about 200 yards. We've shot before at our 175 yard range, which is down below that. But that particular plate is our standard old farm disc. We shoot out here normally 100 yards. And yes, I do have to use a little holdover. But let's see what happens on that plate out there at 200 yards, just about it anyway, with our Gunsite 45 shooting Corbine ammunition. And yes, I will take a risk. Well, friends, we're certainly going to look at one of the favorite handguns that has come through this program. And Rich G and the good folks out at Gunsite were nice enough to loan us this government model that has been modified in their shop for our testing here on the program. And they told me to go ahead and carry the gun and really try it out and really see how it does work. Well, you can see from the picture there that it is essentially identical to in size to the regular government model, the 1911, that most of us are familiar with. And the other particular gun we have here today is one from Springfield Armory, which very faithfully reproduces the original Browning patent, the original 1911, and the Springfields are in fact good guns. And let me mention here that Gunsite works, as far as their 1911 works, they work on several different types of 1911, and other than Colt, I think Springfield Armory is their other favorite brand to work on, and this has certainly been a good gun for us here on the show. But this is really such a neat package. Now then, no, it is not cheap, but for what it is and for the way the gun performs, I think it is very reasonably priced. The good folks out there in the shop or the gunsmithy at Gunsite take either a gun that you bring to them or one of theirs. You can buy it either way, and they do this terrific package, and we're going to look at it just a little closer in just a moment. But one of the neat things they do, as I've said before, the sights on stock 1911, especially Colts, will all loosen up if you shoot the gun. Well, to me that's ridiculous. Colts should have fixed that years ago. I mean, they should know better. Apparently don't have. You wonder if anybody's paying attention at some of the gun companies. The Colt has been helpful to us, loaned us some guns. They're nice people, but they ought to fix the front sight. Okay. And if they want to call me, they can. And I'll just introduce them to a lot of other people who say the same thing. Anyway, what the folks there at Gunsite, they have dovetailed a front sight into the slide there so it can't come out. It's a simple thing. Also, this particular gun has the excellent Novak sight. Most of you on a 45, the fixed sights are just fine. If you're doing some target work and you have a variety of different rounds, well, yes, an adjustable sight will be good, but for most of us, myself included with 45, I typically shoot the 230 grain Corbine, and this is as dead on out at 25 yards with the 230 grain Corbine load, so it really does work for me. And I tell you what, those of you know that I really do like revolvers, especially big caliber revolvers, but this gun has proven to be, we've shot this a good bit since we got back, and it has really proven to be reliable. And one of the neat things, the folks at Gunsite give these guns a lifetime guarantee. If something goes wrong with this gun, send it back to them, they'll fix it. If you wear the bluing off, whatever, send it back to them, they'll fix it. So that is such an excellent guarantee they have. There are a number of subtle differences we'll look at in just a moment. One of the most comfortable areas of a modified 45 where it really does need help is back here on the grip safety. Now this grip safety has a little hump here that is going to ensure with a reasonable grip that the grip safety is depressed. And I personally really like the grip safety on the 1911. I think it's a good feature. You have the ring type hammer, but you have an area back here that protects the web of your hand. And it does make it much more comfortable in shooting. Now also it's probably going to speed you up a little bit, and we'll just have some ball ammunition in now. But you can see the lack. It gives you a little better leverage, that extended beaver tail grip safety. So let's take a look in my hands here. See, just not a lot of recoil at all, and this really does help. On this gun, I like the extended safety, and they're telling me out at Gunsite that really you need to shoot a 1911 with your thumb on top of that safety, like so, because there is some chance. And yes, we're being extremely careful. No, there's no one over here, and because this gun is loaded. If, let's say you're a police officer or a homeowner, and you have your thumb down below, say safety's off on the gun you're about to shoot, well, what someone could do is hit your thumb, and guess what? The gun is inoperable because you've just put your safety on. So they're saying at Gunsite, it's a better policy to let your thumb rest on top of that safety. Just a little added tip there that they've discovered through much shooting and some of the finest minds and practitioners in shooting today. Well, let's take a closer look. Now, friends, you can tell the difference if you can look. This is our standard Springfield armory, which for all intents and purposes is very, very similar to the Colt. You have sharp edges here, which the folks at Gunsite have literally knocked or polished all the edges off that would be abrasive. And believe me, when you're carrying a gun or when you reach for one quickly, that really does make a difference. Also, the Novak sight is very smooth, whereas the standard sights will sometimes hang or get caught on clothing or so, and these just really don't. Even the front sight is angled to where it is not going to impede a draw from a concealment type holster, which here's your more or less your standard sight. Really a nice feature. You can see this is a standard safety on a 1911, essentially a standard safety, and see the difference here. It's just easier to get to. It's more positive. And of course, they're saying put your thumb over that safety and hold it down while you're shooting. But that's another, and you can see also on the grip safety, see how narrow this is? This is very similar to a stock Colt. In fact, this one is a little better than the stock Colt. One, you have a ring type hammer that's not going to pinch you here as likely, but you can see it's much, much more comfortable. It spreads out the recoil of the slide coming back, and also the hammer that protects your hand. So it is just quite a bit. See the difference here? There's really an advantage to this. Your trigger mechanism has also been changed out for a custom trigger design. It is a crisper type situation there, and this is a neat feature. The serrations on the front of the slide, see the little Gunsite thing, I think that's a neat touch. Also, you can see how the front sight is dovetailed in where these are pinned in on the standard models, and they will come loose. I think the Springfields are better than some of the others, but anyway, those sights will in fact come loose if you shoot them, so that's the first thing that's often replaced. Anyway, just a very, you see these Novak sights are easier to pick up quickly, at least they are for me, and I think for most people, than the standard type sighting arrangement. Now then, friends, I was talking about the serrations here on the front. Now what this does, it lets you check the gun without having to come back here. If you have a scope on your gun or whatever, or maybe you just want to check it like so and look and be sure there's nothing in that chamber. Another thing that I like about the Gunsite guns come with an 8-round magazine rather than a 7. And some of the 1911s are not reliable with the 8-round magazines. This gun has proven to be so, and believe me, if it gets out of Gunsite, since they guarantee them to work, it will have to be. I also like this magazine pad to be sure, and this gun comes with, I believe, 3 of the 8-round magazines, and you can seat it. You have a real good situation there for seating. Also, take a look at this, the little Raven. And I don't know how they did this. I don't know if they did this with a laser or what, but that is so nicely done in the grip there. This real pretty wood, a really nice feature. Well, let's go ahead and shoot the gun and go ahead and load it, pull it all the way to the rear. Got our safety on now. We'll go ahead and put our thumb over that safety, and let's take a couple of shots here. Easy to shoot well. Let's go on over here to our steel plate. And we have another one. Now then, let's go up and take a look at our pretty rapid fire group there and just see what it looks like. And again, shooting fairly rapidly, not a bad group. Well, friends, I have really enjoyed shooting this Gunsite pistol. It is a little more expensive, but this is in fact the gun that the factories should build, the major factories should. But the good news is, though they don't, people like the gunsmithy at Gunsite come along and they review the gun. They say, well, here's what needs to be fixed, and they go on and do it, and they make it available to us. This is, for what it costs, a very inexpensive situation for the quality that you do get. I've really enjoyed this gun. It does have a slightly heavier recoil spring to protect the slide from battering, and also most of us, for defensive purposes, are going to shoot the full-powered ammunition. Certainly I keep Corbon ammunition in my guns, and no, I'm not going to go out and sell all my revolvers, certainly not, but this is an extremely reliable and accurate 45, and one that you could certainly trust. You know, any semi-automatic, I don't care what it is, will malfunction, as will all mechanical things. But I tell you what, the reliability on this gun is absolutely guaranteed. They are very, very nice guns. Well, let's shoot it again. Not a bad group for rapid fire, you know. To get the Gunsite catalog, call 1-800-504-7571. This is really a terrific catalog that will give you a list of their services and products. Again, call them 1-800-504-7571 for the Gunsite catalog.
Stay tuned for more of the Shootin' Show after these important messages.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Get your hands off that gun, bow, or fishing rod. Holding onto your equipment while you're going through the woods or climbing a hill is fatiguing and possibly dangerous. The versatile Tri-Tote all-season carrier is easy to use. You never have to drill a hole in your fine gun stock. And the Tri-Tote can be set up for your specific needs in a jiffy. Just follow the illustrated instructions and free demo video enclosed. There you are, hands-free, yet ready to shoot in an instant. Hunting and fishing have never been more enjoyable. With Tri-Tote, your equipment is secure and your hands are free to support yourself or carry other gear. How did you ever get along without Tri-Tote? Make this year's hunting and fishing the best ever. To order your Tri-Tote at this special TV price, call toll-free 1-800-231-1443. That's 1-800-231-1443.
You know, friends, all of us as shooting enthusiasts should be subscribing to Shotgun News, the trading post for anything that shoots. 3 big issues monthly with literally thousands and thousands of firearms bargains. Give them a call, 1-800-345-6923, a very inexpensive subscription price. Again, 1-800-345-6923. Subscribe today.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we hope that you're enjoying our program. We're certainly very pleased to be bringing it to you. Well, sir, of course, you recognize Leroy Scott here, my esteemed colleague, the good judge. You look a little manicured there tonight. You had to go to court today?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I did.
Well, I'm sure you made a good impression, sir. You're pretty slick there tonight. Well, I know you've got several things. How are you?
Well, I've got a lot of things I'd like to talk about, Johnny. I'm so tired of listening to some of this propaganda. Bosnia, for example. Right after the president made his speech, they announced an instant poll where somewhere in the neighborhood of roughly 50% of the American people agreed with the president. I've conducted my own poll. I've asked everybody I find, everybody I talk to, and you know what? I haven't found anybody yet that agrees with it.
Why am I not surprised?
Not one. And even now, the politicians and the commentators I hear on television say there's overwhelming opposition.
Now, I've been hearing that. There is certainly overwhelming opposition. What in the world are we doing? We're going to send 20,000 young men, you know.
Well, Johnny, the question that hadn't been answered that I see is this. Well, there are a lot of questions that haven't been answered. But if they get over there in the middle of a civil war, and you end up trying to mediate a problem between two warring factions, you usually end up getting both of them mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
And if we end up with one division that's the First Armored over there, and they get suddenly attacked by everybody,
right.
The next question is, what are we going to do?
That's right.
We're going to pull
Good
out,
question.
or because they're ours, we're going to support them massively with troops and equipment and so forth like they did in Desert Storm.
Well, now the Russians, I understand, are heavily allied with the Serbs. Is that right?
Well, they have been. They've contributed some people to this so-called peacekeeping force. But the Russians have been arming the Serbs, and I know perfectly well that we go in there. Part of our program is to arm the Bosnians so they can defend themselves.
Mm-hmm.
We've had.
That's what we should have been doing the whole time.
Well, we've had resolutions of Congress about that, but Clinton has vetoed
Mm-hmm.
it. The problem is that if we arm the Bosnians and teach them how to use some of these weapons, presumably sophisticated weapons, how's that going to make the Serbs feel? How's it going to make the Croatians feel? It looks to me like we're going in there under a predetermined set of circumstances that is going to be guaranteed to have at least one or two of the three parties aggravated with us, and I don't think they're going to put up with it. They're going to be incidents. And I want to know, what do we do when these incidents air? Clinton says, oh, they can retaliate with massive force. Yeah, fine, massive force. And we got a division half wiped out. And then what do we do? Do we pull out? Do we stay in? If we stay in, we're going to have to reinforce them with tremendous forces. And that's going to have us into a war just in time for the presidential campaign.
Isn't that amazing?
Just
in time.
Something's wrong with that. Something's absolutely wrong with it.
Well, if it'll make you feel better, Clinton has said he's taking full responsibility. Now, what does that mean? Full responsibility from Bill Clinton?
Yeah, that means full responsibility today. Tomorrow it's going to be, oh, the Republicans supported it.
Yeah, right.
That's Bob Dole, who is unfortunately not my candidate for president.
Well, I cannot
preferable to Clinton, but certainly not the choice among the Republicans. Incidentally, there's a nice rundown in this issue of the New American on all of the, it's a December 11th issue, all of the Republican presidential candidates. It's very good.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it it is slanted as being favorable toward one or another. It's just factual, and that helps. Anyhow, on TV here the other day, I read something about, or hear something about France, and there are no guns.
Oh, yes. I saw that on a large network news program, which will go unnamed. But anyway, yes, they were talking about how wonderful things were in France, and they had an American over there said they could walk down the street in Paris and said that she thought the safety was due to no guns. Well, what's your comment on that, sir?
My comment on that's found in the New American this month at page, or this week, I think it's at page 42, it is. The quotation from the Reuters News Service is that in France, gun control laws are extremely stringent, especially for handguns, and the sale of assault rifles and other similar military weapons is unthinkable.
Okay.
Now, if France is so damn smart, why did they end up having to get the United States of America to fish them out of 2 world wars, one of them after their country had been completely occupied?
How quickly we forget.
And the English had to beg American sportsmen to donate their hunting rifles so that England would be armed.
And handguns, everything will bang.
Armed in the event, as they anticipated, in a Nazi invasion.
Well, you know, it just seems to me interesting that the free people had to go get them.
Another point. In this same, a month earlier dispatch, Associated Press dispatch says that some 16-year-old youngster got a firearm, opened fire in a town square, killing 8 more people before turning the gun on himself, injuring another 8 others, and he had killed his father, his mother, and his brother. But he didn't kill them with a gun, he killed them with a baseball bat. Baseball bat and a hammer. And the comment that I find amusing is that presumably there are those who believe that anti-hammer and anti-baseball bat laws would have stopped him.
That is so true. You know, in this country, we do not have a problem because we have guns. We have a problem with young people with shooting each other and having guns because there aren't responsible parents. Don't you agree?
That's what Alan Keyes says, and I think Alan Keyes is probably right about that. Incidentally, another Alan. We're losing a wonderful man, Alan Simpson. Saw him on TV this morning announcing his retirement. That is a really fantastic senator from Wyoming. I have every reason to believe that, considering the kind of people that the Wyoming electorate has sent to Congress, it will have another one in the same mold. But Alan Simpson's been there for a long time, well respected, and I really do hate to lose him. You know, there are 33 senators to be elected next year. 12 Democrats who were up for re-election have quit. 4 Republicans who are up for re-election have quit. Of those 4 Republicans, Alan Simpson is by far the most acceptable and conservative. For example, some of the Democrats that have quit are Bennett Johnston from Louisiana.
Hadn't lost a thing there. Our good luck.
And various others, but 4 Republicans have quit, but 3 of those are among the most liberal Republicans in the Senate.
Great.
So
maybe at least we probably won't do worse. We'll probably do better with them, right?
Probably do better. NRA facts today. Interesting. HCI, Handgun Control Incorporated, with its usual propaganda, says that in the years of 1994 and 1995, that 27% of law officers that were killed in the line of duty were killed with assault weapons. Well, let's assume that their facts are true and correct. They're not. But let's play like they are. The FBI study shows that between 1984 and 1993, just before these figures from handgun control, that only 3% of law enforcement officers that were killed in the line of duty were killed with guns that were banned by the Clinton gun ban. So it would appear that the Clinton gun ban has increased the fatality rate of law officers percentage-wise by 9 times, 900%.
since the so-called assault weapon ban.
Yeah. Now, I disagree with the NRA facts here in one respect. They talk about the whole problem is to keep offenders behind bars. I agree with that. But then they say that 73% of persons involved in officer slayings had prior arrests. That doesn't mean a thing. Doesn't mean a thing. Prior arrest doesn't mean guilty, doesn't mean innocent, doesn't mean anything else. They say 56% had prior criminal convictions. Now that becomes important. But the bad part about it is 23% were on parole or probation for offenses committed before they killed the officers. The states with the lowest incidence of police officer slayings are those with the highest percentage in incarceration rates.
Johnny, how's your diet going?
Well, Catherine, actually, I'm not on a diet. I'm on a weight management program.
Isn't that the same thing as a diet?
No, it's not. Not really, because, folks, diets typically don't work. 95% of the time, they don't work. And so when someone's on a diet, the first thing that happens, they're real hungry, and you get weak if you start cutting down your food intake. You get weak, and some of us get grouchy. Of course, I would never get grouchy.
Yeah, oh yeah. Mm-hmm.
But seriously, diets typically don't work. That's what makes our Health Club weight management program so terrific, because you can still go on and eat. You don't feel like you're starving, because really that's how diets fail. Your body thinks it's being starved, which a lot of times is true for so many diets. Friends, this is terrific. I've lost 60 pounds already, and I've got a few more. Hey, I'm working on it too, and I'm going to get there. Another 30 days or so. Hey, that's right. Another 30 days or so, and I will be there to where I want to be. And you know what? I'm not going to gain it back. I'm going to stay there, because I'm going to continue with our weight management program. They provide a book of the best information on diet that I've ever seen. It tells you why you're hungry, tells you why you gain weight, and why it's hard to lose. So all this is available in the health management program through our health club. Friends, I tell you what, this is the greatest thing. There's no excuse for you to feel bad about being overweight any longer, because our health club information can help you take it off. Besides that, our health club supplements are absolutely out of this world. Don't put it off. Let's do it today. Hey, it's worked on me and a whole lot of people that have started on this around the country. So don't put it off. Call us 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name and address and phone number. We'll get back to you as quickly as possible. Bear in mind, our staff is small, but they're doing their best, to catch up as quickly as they can. So please call us today. Don't put it off. Help certainly helps our show, but it will help you even more. For Health Club information, give us a call, 1-800-895-7916. Leave your name, address, and phone number. Someone will get back to you as soon as possible. Friends, this is such a wonderful thing. Do it for yourselves today. Friends, it's rare in any field of manufacture that one particular company has a clear-cut advantage over the others. Well, in this case, it's Corbin Ammunition, Corbin Bullet Company, because they make the best handgun, long gun, and even some specialty caliber ammunition that's been real hard to get in the past. If you really want your handgun or rifle to perform at their absolute best, you need to find some Corbin ammunition. For information on where you can get Corbin, information on their product line, call them. Corbin Bullet Company, 1-800-626-7266. Again, give them a call. It's a free call, 1-800-626-7266. Trust me on this one. Corbin is the best there is. The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
Well, we got another problem. Chuck Schumer, Representative Charles Schumer, who is allegedly thinking about running for governor of New York. I certainly hope he does. Get him out of the House of Representatives. He is wanting to amend any anti-terrorism bill, by including the bullet ban that Clinton wants. This will, in effect, be gun control by control of what goes in guns, in bullets. Really, this cannot be overemphasized. You have got to get hold of your representatives and let them know again how strongly you feel on this subject. Speed limits.
Speed limits. Go ahead.
The arrogance of the people I saw on 60 Minutes about speed limits, the arrogance that only people in Washington can make intelligent choices about speed limits.
You know, that is so true. I was watching a news program yesterday. This is Monday as we're taping our program this week. And I watched one of the major news programs where, well, I'll say who it was, Sam Donaldson, Cokie Roberts, and some of these folks are sitting around. And I believe it was Cokie that said she's going to be afraid to get on the highway, Judge. If they raise speed limit 70 miles an hour, I mean, she's absolutely going to be afraid to get on the highway. This is madness.
And
It's
yet,
insane.
in the same breath, they admit that that's what people are doing now.
That's what they're doing now. You know, it's the goofiest thing.
As a matter of fact, you got a ticket the other day, didn't you?
I'd rather not go into that.
You're gonna wait until after your trial.
Well, that's right. I would have been under the legal limit. That's true if they raised it, but you're exactly right. You know, I applaud Montana, you know, and these people in Washington, these people who think they know best. You know, Judge, we were up in Connecticut a while back, and the interstates were pretty crowded, and I noticed that there were a lot of cars, flow of traffic was running along 50, 55 miles per hour. There were a lot of cars on the interstate. Well, I was just out in Arizona and West Texas and Colorado and New Mexico, and heck, you might go miles before even meeting another car. Wouldn't be a car at all in your lane. You may go several miles. And I don't believe that the conditions in Connecticut warrant being applied out in West Texas. I just don't believe it.
Well, these people in Washington are inside the Beltway, as it's called, really can't see beyond the Beltway and find out
That's
what
true.
the heck is happening in the rest of 99.9% of the nation.
Well, what I think it is, they're so afraid by giving up any little piece of federal power. Whoa, they're afraid they're going to plant the seeds of freedom, Judge. You know, that's happened before.
I don't know why in the world the feds are concerned about speed limits on the interstates anyhow. Why isn't it a state problem all the time, always?
I mean, are they saying that everyone on the local level is just not qualified to run their lives? I think that's what they're saying, don't you?
I know it's what they're saying, and I resent it.
A bunch.
Well, got another subject. New American. This current issue. Did federal agents have prior knowledge of the Oklahoma City bombing? Whole series of articles on that.
And you know what, friends? The New American does not miss on the stuff they say. Believe me, they can back it up. They don't put it in there. They couldn't say these things unless they had information that was concrete to back it up. Go ahead.
Well, one of the things they're saying is that all 15 or 17 of the ATF, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, agents were not in the building at the time.
Well, was that an unusual condition for them not to be there?
Well, McGaugh, who's the head of it, says, well, unless they're having a special meeting or something like that, they wouldn't expect them all there at the same time. Well, I'd expect some of them there in the first place, and then one of the comments was that that they are, at least some of them should have been there at 9 o'clock in the morning or 9:30 in the morning, whenever that bombing took place. It just is amazing. They've got all sorts of reports that are not true. Elevators having free falls with 10 floors. Elevators don't do that. They're counterbalanced. They don't go into free fall. And inspection of the elevators at Oklahoma City showed that none of them were in free fall. Most of them had frozen where they were. I am I am astounded at the detail of what they're talking about here, and it also bothers me considerably that we appear to have some sort of a cover-up in Oklahoma City. Incidentally, this last week, the Court of Appeals said that the federal judge there in Oklahoma City, whose offices were right close to the bombing, could not hear this case. That there was too much of a possibility that he'd be influenced by the fact that it was right nearby.
Well, what do you think about that?
Probably.
A little
Probably.
bit. Well, it is distressing, and here's what's happening. You know, just like the speed limit thing, that was enacted about 20 years ago, a little over 20 years ago, in fact, and nobody agreed. Now, the original intent behind the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit was to conserve gasoline,
That's right.
conserve fuel. No one agreed with it at the time, and it was federal blundering in the oil industry that even caused us to have a shortage in the beginning. Don't you agree? When the oil embargo, there have been price controls by the federal government that held things down.
Well, there certainly was an ample measure of that.
Well,
In fact, the federal government encouraged the rise in the price of oil. The Shah of Iran, who's now history, was encouraged to raise prices on oil. And, of course, when everybody else saw, hey, he's getting away with it, why shouldn't we?
well, you can see how long, and you know, no one agreed with that. I would say that less than 10% of the U.S. population agreed with the 55-mile-per-hour speed limit.
I don't think anybody agrees with it. They don't agree with it now. They aren't obeying it. They aren't paying any attention to it.
Well, one, it created an entire industry of radar detectors, and it made people mistrust the system. It made people say, well, look, you know, this is ridiculous, this is unreasonable. It made the majority of the American population who drive automobiles into lawbreakers. It made most of us who drive on interstate highways, heck, Judge, I'm not sure I even know anybody that drove 55, even back then. I mean, everybody said, well, we got 60, 65 anyway, they'll give us that. I mean, people thought it was ridiculous. Look how long it has taken to overturn a bad law.
Okay, Johnny, let's get on another subject. You know where the terms left and right finally originally came from?
I really don't. What?
Came out of the French Revolution. They had a legislative assembly in the French Revolution, and those were advocates of the monarchy and the old order sat on the right of the president's chair, and those that were revolutionaries and wanted to cut everybody's head off were on the left. And the term right and left originated there. Then the center of the assembly was timid, not wanting in any principle of clarity or clearness, usually voted with the left. Well, we hear so much about right wing and left wing today that it reminds me of a little book, a little pamphlet that one of my friends wrote called "The Myth of the Right and the Left." He has given me permission to reprint it. And if I can ever find my copy of it, I'm going to reprint it. Essentially, can you define what political left means or stands for?
Well, essentially, the liberal, socialist, New World Order types. And that's what I think.
More government.
More government, absolutely.
All right. How about the right?
Well, the right is conservative, less government, more freedom, let individuals take responsibility for their own actions, and let them act accordingly.
So, the press demonstrates gross irresponsibility when they apply left and right in this country in that sense. But in Russia, the right wing are the communists, and the left wing are the people who want freedom.
Interesting.
That's exactly 180 degrees out of
Exactly
phase.
backwards.
Out of phase of what we've got. I just don't understand. Well, yes, I do, too. I understand that the liberal press are just not with it.
Well, absolutely. That's why they're not to be trusted. That's one of the reasons we're doing this on the air.
Well, you got a nice one here. What's this one about?
This is interesting. Walter Williams is a very bright economist. He is a professor at George Mason University. Sometimes he sits in for Rush Limbaugh. And he had a column recently in one of the newspapers and talk about what big government has done. You know, as I understand it now, there are more people below the poverty level than when the Great Society, the poverty programs began those years ago. And here's what, let me read a couple of figures here that I really found interesting.
Well, they've spent $5.4 trillion on it.
Now, wait a minute, friends.
That's more than the national debt.
$1 trillion, as to quote Gordon Liddy, is 1,000 billion. Am I correct on that?
Yep.
A trillion is 1,000 billion. So 5.4 thousand billion dollars. I mean, it's fantastic. We cannot imagine that much money. Well, listen to this. With $5.4 trillion, you could purchase every U.S. factory, all manufacturing equipment, and every office building. You could buy every airline, every trucking company, and our commercial maritime fleet. You could also buy every television station, radio, and power company, every retail and wholesale store in the entire nation. But just wait. Projected welfare spending over the next 5 years is another $2.8 trillion. That's fantastic. Fantastic.
Well, I just multiplied it out here. That's 54 million welfare recipients. They could have made 54 millionaires with the same money and eliminated all of the overhead and the bureaucracy that goes with it. And I'm sure they're not over 54 million poor people in the country, or multiplied by 2, 108 million,
Well,
with 500,000 apiece.
Well, just to show you the mess we're in, why people won't go to work, listen to this. In Oregon, the welfare package for a single mother with 2 young children is worth $16,959. To net $16,959 by working, that mother would have to be able to earn a $19,000 pre-tax yearly salary or welfare package. Now, wait a minute. In Hawaii,
That's $9.23 an hour.
well, in Hawaii, the same deal would go to $27,736. They're not going out there and work for $5-6 an hour. They're not going to do it.
Well, she'd have to earn $36,000 pre-tax or $17.50 an hour to break even with what she gets on welfare. Now, I'm telling you something's wrong with that, and the Republicans are going to try to do something about it, and Clinton's going to veto it, because although he has said that he's against welfare as it exists, he wants to end welfare as we know it, but he also said that he wanted to get a balanced budget in 5 years, and now he's threw the government into a semi-crisis because he wouldn't agree to 7 years additional over the 3 that he's already been in office.
You mean that man does not always tell the truth, sir? You mean that we have to?
Well, let's put it like this: he is highly inconsistent. Incidentally, we've got one other news
That's not
flash.
a mess. What? Go ahead.
We have 7 congressmen in Louisiana.
7, yes.
4 of them were Republicans. That's after one of them switched. And he's likely to run for senator to replace Bennett Johnson. He's probably going to be elected. That's Tozan. So we had 3 before that. Tozan switched, made 4, and now we've got a 5th one that switched just 3 or 4 days ago. So now we have 5 Republican congressmen from Louisiana and 2 Democrat congressmen, both members of a minority race.
Well, and both of them are liberals. Am I correct?
Extremely
liberal.
extreme liberals.
Well, friends, what we're seeing is we're seeing people that are fed up all over the South and all over this country, and they're getting tired of it. Now, they're turning first to the Republicans. I mean, this seems to be the way it's going, and there are some good Democrats out there, but they're giving the Republicans a shot. So, at being decent and fiscally minded and being reasonable in their thoughts. So, we're seeing a turnaround in this country. But you know what, friends? Our battle is ongoing. It has only just begun, because the people who oppose us, who want to take these guns, who want to take our freedom, they have only just begun to fight. Do not think they're going to lay down on the
They
job.
want more government, not less. They want bigger government, not smaller. They want higher taxes, not lower. They're against a tax cut. Clinton says he's in favor of a tax cut, that he raised taxes too much last time, but he vetoes any tax cut. Really, this is a strange situation. Anyhow, note, Louisiana with 5 Republican congressmen. Who would have thought this just 10 years ago?
No one. No.
Nobody.
About in 1980, I went up and registered Republican, and the people at our clerk's office actually laughed at me. They said, "What in the world? You lost your mind? You registered Republican?" That's true. That hadn't been that long ago. So, you know, people are making a turnaround. And friends, let me tell you what. We have to remain vigilant, and we have to work as hard as we can. We have to contact our representatives about how we feel, and we have to retain our firearms rights, because if we don't, we're going to lose our way of life, and thereby goes the best things about Western civilization.
Now, I know that our viewers are tired of listening to me talk about politics, but it's important. It is the lifeblood of this country. If you let the politicians have their way, we'll have more government, higher taxes, less freedom, and it's up to you. Now, in Louisiana, we elected a Republican governor. Why did we elect a Republican governor? The liberal Democrat, thought that being the first day of hunting season, that a lot of the hunters would be out in the field, but they voted absentee. And it was, according to the liberal newspapers, a landslide. Can you imagine a Republican governor getting a landslide victory in Louisiana?
Well, he got the gun owners out. He darn sure did. He got them out to support him.
That was his first campaign promise. Support the Second Amendment, elect Foster.
The Shootin' Show will be right back after this break for your local cable company or TV station.
You know, Carrie, I think it's as important for you ladies to know how to use these firearms as it is for us men. But you know, there's something else. We can have firearms for defense of our homes and certainly for sport, but we also need information.
Yes, I agree. I think the New American Magazine is the best source of information available in this country.
Well, I would certainly agree. The New American Magazine is the truth and nothing but the truth. And friends, if you would like to know what is really going on in this country and around the world, if you want, in fact, the truth, well, you need to get the New American Magazine. So here's how to do it.
You can get the New American by calling 1-800-727-TRUE-TRUE. And those numbers, of course, are 1-800-727-8783. The New American, $22 for a 6-month subscription. It comes twice a month. Now, friends, with your new Shootin' Show subscription, they will also send you a free copy of what the United Nations is bringing to all of us. So this is very important. Subscribe today. You know, friends, in times like these, which indeed are strange times, we certainly need our firearms, but we also need the information about what's really going on. Order today. To give a gift subscription to the New American Magazine to one of your favorite people, you can do so at the regular price of just $39, and each additional gift subscription is just $29. Again, that's for a full year subscription. The first one, $39. If you give an additional one, it's only $29. Call this number. The gift subscription number is area 414-749-3784. Again, area 414-749-3784. And now, friends, we're very pleased to present Art Alphin of the great A-Square Company. For those of you who don't know, Art is a former instructor at West Point, and he has some of these wonderful things to say, some of the most interesting things that I've ever seen on firearms. And so let's see what he has to tell us today.
Black gunpowder, a charcoal, sulfur, and saltpeter concoction, was invented sometime during the 11 or 1200s AD. Contrary to popular belief, it did not immediately revolutionize the art of warfare. Man required many years to learn how to harness gunpowder for military use. The first gunpowder weapons were nothing more than tubes tied to a piece of wood. By the 1500s, these had evolved into the matchlock musket or arquebus. Our sample today is a reproduction Swedish matchlock of the 30 Years' War. Its bore has been made smaller than the original so as to increase the thickness and strength of the barrel walls. However, it will suffice for our teaching purposes today. The average matchlock weighed between 15 and 30 pounds and was fired from a forked rest. They generally were not configured for shouldering and aiming as a rifle is made today. The name matchlock is quite descriptive of its method of ignition. A touch hole was drilled through to the interior of the barrel, and a pan mounted outside the barrel just underneath the touch hole. After loading the weapon, the pan was filled with powder, and a burning match, a cotton rope soaked in potassium nitrate solution, was placed in a holder above the pan. When the trigger was pulled, it acted as a lever, forcing the match into the pan. The loading procedure was slow and cumbersome. First, the soldier stuck his rest in the ground and hung his burning match over the rest or wrapped it around his helmet. He then poured the propelling charge down the barrel. In the early 1500s, this powder was simply scooped up by hand from a bag of loose powder carried on the belt. By the late 1500s, powder horns were in use, and the powder was poured into a measuring cup and then poured down the barrel. By the time of the 30 Years' War, Gustavus Adolphus had instituted the use of the bandolier. This bandolier was a belt slung over the shoulder from which a number of wooden powder bottles were suspended. Each of these bottles contained one propelling charge. After pouring the powder down the barrel, the shooter then placed a ball in the muzzle of the barrel, withdrew the ramrod, and forced the ball down against the powder. The ball was normally cast a great deal undersized so that the weapon might be easily loaded after the barrel had become fouled by the residue of the black powder. The shooter then brought the weapon level, placed it in the rest, and put a good deal of priming powder in the pan. Prudent shooters would then close some sort of cover over the top of the pan, place the match back in its holder, and were prepared to fire. From this point forward, the weapon had to be kept basically level, especially after the pan was uncovered, and the shooter had to blow upon the match to ensure that it was burning brightly. The weapon had many weaknesses. Thanks to the gap between barrel and ball, it was hopelessly inaccurate. Matchlock musketeers, if left unsupported, could be rapidly overrun. Consequently, they had to be used in conjunction with pikemen. It was the pikeman who provided the close-in defense and the time for the matchlock musketeer to load and use his weapon. The resulting formations of pikemen were often slow and ponderous, like the Spanish tercio, but the musketeer had to stay within the formation of pikemen if he was to survive. During the 30 Years' War, Gustavus Adolphus instituted many improvements in the matchlock. He standardized bore sizes, though this is not standardized as we know it today. He simply designated a range of bore sizes and then had a large number of well-undersized balls cast for them. This allowed the musketeer's assistant, who normally carried lead ingots, bullet molds, and other equipment, to discard this paraphernalia and become a musketeer himself. Further, the bandolier did increase the volume of fire of Gustavus's musketeers. Lastly, Gustavus changed the ratio of musketeers to pikemen. Though he increased the number of pikemen in relation to musketeers, he actually greatly increased the overall volume of fire due to his other improvements. In this photograph, you'll note the musketeers practicing up front, while in the background you can see the dense formations of pikemen. Given this increase in the volume of fire, Gustavus made his units smaller and more maneuverable on the battlefield. In practice, especially with the tercio, it looked like a giant armored hedgehog waddling up to some target and then slowly but surely wearing it away with matchlock fire and jabs of the pike.
If you are a boater or a birder, if you ever carry a camera, Bi-Tote is for you. It is the most comfortable binocular and camera carrier on the market today. And its all-elastic quick change feature makes it possible to switch from one piece of equipment to another without missing a beat. If you think that carrying binoculars or cameras is a pain in the neck, try Bi-Tote. For the first time, your equipment will feel almost weightless, and you'll be free of that annoying swinging and bouncing which is hard on your body as well as the equipment, especially when you're negotiating rough terrain or on a pitching boat. One hand for you, one hand for the boat, and Bi-Tote for your binoculars or camera. They'll be ready for you instantly, held firmly in position. They're always there, not buried in a locker or other out-of-the-way place. And the Bi-Tote is totally adjustable for a custom fit. All necessary adapters and complete instructions are included with your Bi-Tote. How did you ever get along without it?